And he arrived in Sydney and worked as a pastry cook in Bellevue Hill at a patisserie there, and moved around, took a few promotions and wound up in Double Bay for a guy who was very famous, who made American cakes. And from there he met a guy called Walter Magnus, who had a chain of restaurants, Carl's Restaurant. Right. Well, he got a job there very early on and rose to the position of executive chef of the group. He saw an advertisement in the paper for managing director of what was then 2 federal hotels. He lied about his age. He lied about his age and landed the job with the help of his boss, Walter Magnus. And he took that company from 2 hotels as it was then. He did radical things like he basically offered decent meals down in the restaurants and put bathrooms in the hotel room. So he was the first person to put a bathroom in a hotel room in Australia.
Wow.
Back then you had to go down the end of the corridor like everybody else.
Yes.
And he did things like get the Beatles to stay in his hotels and things like that. So he was very entrepreneurial. He took it in the 6 years that he was with them. He took them from 2 hotels to 10 hotels and listed them on the stock exchange as the first hotel hospitality company to list on the Australian Stock Exchange.
Wow.
He then decided that he needed to learn more, so he organised a trip to go and meet the original Baron Hilton in America. And, of course, that involved quite a few hops on the way, as it did in those days.
Yes.
And he stopped off in Hawaii on the way back, and there were 2 hotels in Honolulu at the time, the Moana and the Royal Hawaiian. And he put a deposit on those 2 hotels in the name of his company. And came back to Australia. He came back to Australia, and the board were not very happy with him for having done this. and they had a meeting, and they decided they didn't want to expand internationally, and so he lost those hotels. Which was the first of 2 things that upset him. The second thing was he also, having come back, had discovered that motels were a big thing in the States, and it was going very well. And he bought the Travelodge name from America to Australia and wanted to embark on opening a series of motels. The board also decided that they weren't interested in going in that direction. So at the age of 29, he decided that they weren't visionary enough for him, and he sold his shares in the company and got out and was in Melbourne at that stage and moved back to Sydney.